Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. This is Sarthak this side. Super duper glad to have all of you for this Ask Me Anything session. And this is literally Ask Me Anything. Don't ask me anything about my married life. Ask me anything on MBA admissions, right? So, uh, anything with respect to Indian MBA, foreign MBA, how to get in schools like ISB, HEC, IIMS, whatever works for you. And if you want directional guidance on which schools to apply for, basis your goals, your context, that also is totally fine to ask. But before that, just a quick background about me. I did my MBA from ISB, Indian School of Business, and I was a consulting aspirant. So I slogged very hard to, get the best marks. I was the president of the Entrepreneurship Club, and I got into a consulting firm. I worked there briefly for 6 months, and then I took the plunge and started working on Career Edge full time. I've been working in CE full time for the last 3.5 years, since February 2022. And we have multiple programs on MBA admissions, on consulting, getting into consulting. So that is there, but you can raise your hands or put it in the chat. Any questions that you have on MBA admissions, I'll try to answer them to the best of my abilities and experience. Awesome. Arnav is asking 635 in GMAT, what can be the realistic options for MBA in India apart from BITSOM? Very good question. So it depends on your work ex. If your work ex is, let's say, 3, 4, 5 years, uh, so my follow-up question to you is, what is your work ex count? Is it less than 4 years or more than 4 years? Because uh, 4+ years would unlock our options for ISB as well as IIM Ahmedabad, and 5+ would help us include IIM Bangalore as well as IIM Calcutta in our kitty. So your work X would be 4. Okay, got it. So whenever you calculate your work X, try to calculate it on the cutoff date. The cutoff date for many colleges is 31st March 2026. So if it would be above 4, you can definitely apply for ISB and IIM Ahmedabad, but our GMAT score is a little on the lower side. So we'll have to stand out really, really well in either our prior academics, which is 12th and college. If that is not very high, then you should try to highlight your extracurriculars slash side ventures slash blog page slash Instagram slash sports, anything that helps you stand out in your essays. IIM Ahmedabad also makes you write 3 essays. ISB makes you write 3 essays. Uh, yeah, I'm a PGPX. The threshold for applying for IMA PGPX is 4 years. 4 years as on 31st March 2026. So you can apply for that as well. It's a very good program, specifically if you're a consulting or a general management aspirant. And also, you know, people keep telling me that, Sarthak, why do you emphasize so much on extracurriculars and something beyond the classroom? Because schools are also doing so. So ISB till last year used to focus on what are your goals post MBA. That was the typical third essay. But they are also fed up by asking that essay because it's very templatized. Half of the people end up writing consulting, half of the people end up writing product management, right? So they wanted to change something. That's why they have changed that essay altogether this year. This year, the essay is the third essay for ISB is what will you add to the classroom in terms of your intellectual pursuits, your beyond the classroom initiative. So that's interesting because that will be unique for all of us. I hope that answers. Chirag is asking, facing quite a lot of friction in GRE. So I had a mentee last year who got into ISB with a 314, but she had a very unique educational background. She had an architecture background and she had her own side venture on mental wellness. So her background was unique in terms of education as well as extracurriculars. And she had 6.5 years of work ex. So she got in, but 315 is a little low. 320 is still okay if you come from a very unique educational background like social impact, political science, and if you have a decent amount of experience, 5 plus. So that is there. My mentee was 314 who got into ISB with, and that was the lowest. Maybe somebody had a 306, but then they would have had a very stellar profile and a high count of work. So all of us have to understand that it's a composite score. If you lack in one dimension, you can make up for it either with your prior academics, uh, number of years of work, quality of work, which can be unique, uniqueness of education, uniqueness of extracurriculars. One of my mentees last year, she got into ISB with a 595. And her personal story was also very different. I mean, in terms of personal life episodes and trials and tribulations. Am I saying 595 पे आपका हो जाएगा? नहीं. Odds are stacked against you. So that is there. Shoaib is asking, I'm currently working in Indian Oil. So IOCL, okay, got it. So for the ISB PGPYL, which is a 20-month program, Shoaib, Uh, since we don't have a lot of work because we'll anyway be eligible only if we have less than 2 years of work, academics is definitely looked at. And if you don't have good academics, then you should try to compensate for that through internships slash life projects slash an entrepreneurial venture slash maybe you were the president of the debating or the placecom in your college. If that's not the case, then you will have to score very, very high marks in GMAT or CAT. When I say high, that means 99th percentile plus in CAT or a 705 plus in GMAT. Uh, Hardik is asking, aspiring for the PGPYL. Hmm. So the PGPYL deadline, Hardik, this year is December 14th, 2025, round one. Uh, and you're a general engineering male candidate. Academics are good but not great. So you should target uh, a 695 on the GMAT FE, 685, 695. And if you get started now, you will be able to prepare by November. It takes 2.5 to 3 months to prepare for GMAT. If you spend 2 hours every day to prepare. Will a good GMAT compensate for a bad 12th score, Kaushik? Yes, it does, because uh, what schools look at is schools bucket your academics in one column, and that includes 12th, college, any master's degree that you have pursued, plus GMAT or GRE, right? So if you have a 7 on 10 GPA in 12th or 75% in 12th, and if you're an engineer, let's say, and if the school's median GMAT is 665, a 30-point deviation upwards will help you compensate for the 12th score, right? Sejal is asking a question. I will have a work ex of 3.75 years as on 31st March 2026. Hmm. So 3.5 years of work ex typically means that you don't want to apply for schools which have a 2 year MBA because you are a little older than that cohort now. Because in a 2 year MBA program, you typically only have freshers or those with 1 year of experience. So you are looking for a 1 year MBA. So for 3.5 years of work ex, uh, ISB for sure for consulting, not finance. Uh, you can apply for you're not eligible for the top three IIMs because your work ex is less than 4 years. So ISB, I would say SP Jain, uh, PGDM. I know it's a 2 year MBA, but it's a very good place to get hired in finance. And you can also apply for Exeleri PGDM GM, which is the 1 year MBA at 1 year MBA at Exeleri. So their threshold of work ex is 3 years, right? So all these schools accept GMAT. Uh, Exeleri and ISB are very good in consulting. SPJN is good in general management and finance. We are not eligible for the IIMs. We are not eligible for IMK also. They revised their minimum threshold to 4 years this year. So these schools in India. Uh, this is Sohail from Hyderabad. I have 3 years of work ex. Okay. More than 90% in 12th, and even in college, it's 90%. Okay, great. So academics have been great. 645 in GMAT mocks. Founding member of the placement cell. Very nice. Very proud of you. Uh, hmm. Very good profile, Sohail. Specifically, you have no academic blunders. You founded a club in your college, which is very unique. So that can be a very good proxy for leadership spikes. But what are your goals post MBA that will help me in helping you shortlist some schools? And hmm, Sejal asked the question, what is the difference between SPJN 1.5-year MBA and the 2-year MBA? So 1.5-year MBA is for folks who have 3+ years of work ex. It's an executive MBA. It's residential but executive. Uh, that's why the typical placement packages are a little higher for the PGPM, which is the 1.5-year MBA. PGDM, which is a 2-year MBA, which accepts CAT as well, is for freshers and those with 1 year of experience. Barring that, no other difference. The duration is the difference. The pedagogy, the teachers is exactly the same. Okay. But if you have 3.5 years of experience, you are at a crossroads. You are sandwiched in between. So now you have to figure out that if your finances and your career track allow you to do a 2-year MBA, then go for the PGDM, no problem at all. But if you want to wrap up your MBA quickly, then go for a 1-year MBA. For finance, both the programs are equally good. Arnav is asking how good are these 1-year MBAs from Accelera IMA? Got it. Uh, so IMA PGPX is very good. If I compare CTCs, the ISB PGP CTC is 35 lakhs per annum. The IMA PGPX CTC is 36 or 37 because the IMA average workex of the cohort in the PGPX is 7 years, 6 to 7 years, right? So IMA PGPX is very good for general management and consulting placements, as good as the 2-year IMA MBA in terms of prestige placements, it being a badge of honor, as good as the 2-year MBA. Accelerate, I have heard a little different feedback. So Accelerate 2-year MBA, very good, which accepts people through the XAT X80. For the PGDM GM, since the program started fairly recently, and only in the last year they reduced the WorkX requirements from 5 to 3 years in terms of minimum threshold. Their CTC is not as high as the ISB PGP and the IMA PGPX. Just to attach a numerical estimate, it's typically 32 lakhs per annum or 31 lakhs per annum, which is lower than IMA, B, C, and ISB. Right? Atul is asking how to plan out in which round to apply. Got it. Very good question, Atul. I was in fact, looking to make a video on this, which is when you should apply, because IIMS ABC in their PGPX program, they have their deadlines a little sooner than ISB. They have the deadlines in August, mid-August end, while ISB PGP has its first round deadline in September mid. एंड होता क्या है कि आईएम्स के राउंड 1 के रिजल्ट्स भी आ जाते हैं. यू गेट शॉर्ट लिस्टेड बेसिस योर प्रोफाइल, देन दे मेक यू राइट 3 essays, देन दे इंटरव्यू यू. एंड होता क्या है कि यू गेट योर रिजल्ट्स इवन बिफोर आईएसबी इंटरव्यूज आर कंडक्टेड इन नवंबर. तो उसमें यू हैव टू चूज वन और दी अदर. तो आई recommend my mentees to apply for round 1 PGP ISB and round 2 in IIMS A and B, because उससे क्या होगा, you will have all the options in front of you कि मेरे पास ये 3 schools में मैंने अप्लाई किया, I have 2 admits, now I can decide. There is no uncertainty then, and there is no statistical evidence to prove that ISB or IIMS deprioritize you in the second or the third round. There is no deprioritization, no discrimination happening basis your candidature. So you can apply in round 2 for IIMS A and B and round 1 in ISB to time it really well, right? Utkarsh is asking, I currently have 2.5 years of work ex along with a strong academic background. Very nice. 3.9 GPA is very good. Oh, gold medalist. Very nice. Mm. Debating, MUNing. Okay, that's a good theme. Okay. One of my mentees also is working in D-Shaw in HR. Very good question. This is Utkarsh. So, Utkarsh, specifically talking about ISB, because you lie in that WorkX bracket, ISB introduced their 20-month MBA last year, which means that for people with 0 to 2 years of WorkX, now there is a separate ISB program, which is called the 20-month MBA or the PGPYL. What that means is people who are typically having 2.5 to 3 years of experience are again sandwiched in between. They're not eligible for the PGPYL and they're at a disadvantage for the PGP because the PGP, since the PGPYL is a separate cohort now, the PGP itself, the 1 year ISB PGP itself, will have a little higher median work X, which let's say earlier was 4, now it will be 4.5. So I had mentees last year who got into the ISB PGP with 2.5, 3 years of work ex. Someone very similar like you who was rank one in her college and who had very good academics in 12th. And she had her own NGO, right? So she was able to get an interview call in round two and she got through. I feel she got through because she had that academic spike plus something hatke, something which was an X factor in her extracurriculars. So if you can capitalize on your debating as a narrative theme, then you also have a chance. And she had a 675 in the GMAT. So that's a good proxy for you to benchmark against. Uh, HEC NUS के लिए your WOCX is on the lower side. I mean, aberrations are there where I see people getting into HEC with 3 years of WOCX, but that's a 1 in 20 chance. So for HEC and NUS with 2.5 years of WOCX, it's very difficult unless you have a 735 in the GMAT or a 705 in the GMAT for NUS. Barring that, you can apply for ISB as well as SP Jain PGDM this year if you want to. So before I take more questions, we have spent the last 20 minutes together. I hope the answers till now have been helpful. Just some quick feedback before um, I go ahead with answering rest of the questions. Awesome. Thank you so much. Let me come back to the questions now. Yeah. So Nidhi is asking with more professionals now preferring to stay in India due to global uncertainty. Very true. ISB seems to be attracting even a stronger applicant pool. Uh, Yeah, matlab, a lot of people, so I don't know. I mean, somebody else has some different opinion. People keep on putting out this post that it's difficult to get into ISB, it's difficult to get into ISB. My response to them is ISB में घुसना आसान कब था? When did anybody ever say कि it's easy to get into ISB? It's always difficult to get into ISB, right? So it was equally difficult when we were in 2023 and the global economy was in doldrums. It was a recession out there. इन 2024 भी वही चीज थी यार कि बाहर तो रिसेशन चल रही है, अब चलो आईएसबी और आईएम्स में अप्लाई कर लेते हैं. तो आई बिलीव इन टर्म्स ऑफ द ओवरऑल एप्लीकेंट पूल it will be equivalent to 2023 and 2024. It was earlier also very difficult to get into ISB because we have been hearing this recessionary narrative over the last 3 years. पहले कोविड आया, फिर कोविड गया, फिर लोगों ने बोला कि बाहर अभी भी रिसेशन चल रहा है, चलो फिर बाहर जाते नहीं, आईएसबी में अप्लाई करते हैं. तो सिंस 2023, and this is statistically true, in 2023 round 2 admission cycle, the school received the highest number of applicants in round 2, which meant that a lot of people were rejected in round two, despite having a great interview, despite having great profiles, simply because a lot of people applied. And that norm has become commonplace for all Indian top MBA programs since 2023. So there is nothing different in this year, to be honest. लोग पहले रिसेशन की वजह से अप्लाई नहीं कर रहे थे, अब लोग रिसेशन प्लस ट्रम्प टैंट्रम्स की वजह से अप्लाई नहीं कर रहे, बट लोग अप्लाई नहीं कर रहे. दैट स्टेज ट्रू, राइट? So, see, I can't follow a cookie cutter approach and say कि volunteering कर लो, blog लिख लो, dance कर लो, arts कर लो. It depends on your unique passions and hobbies. If Sarthak has loved reading books in his formative years, which I have, uh, then I would recommend Sarthak to maybe form a book club WhatsApp group and engage people there, have discussions there, and that can be a very good value add for him when he writes his essays. So it depends on your unique hobbies, pastimes, and passions. But don't do certifications, don't do courses. That doesn't add value. So Hale is asking you're looking for consulting roles. Okay. So if you're looking for consulting roles, Sohail, let me go back to your previous question. Sohail is asking that he has 3 years of experience, good academics, founding member of a club. You should definitely apply for ISB, and backup schools in India can be SPJN, PGDM, as well as BITSOM. Uh, if you want to apply outside, you can apply in UK with Oxford and Cambridge. These are also very good consulting feeder schools. I hope that clarifies. And we have also put a profile evaluation link if you want to reach out to me personally. Happy to do that because some of us might not be very comfortable in sharing all the details on chat, so that's okay. Uh, when would be a good time to start the ISB while application process? The essay topics came out on last Wednesday, so you can start. I mean, the essay topics are out, so it's a good time to start. Hmm. You have 3 months left. August, September, October, November, 4 months, 4.5 months. So if you haven't started preparing for CAT, Shoaib, you can't prepare for CAT in 4.5 months, unless, let's say, you have no job or you're not working right now and you're an engineer. If you're an engineer and you're not working actively right now full time, then you can still prepare for CAT. But if you are a non-engineer who's working in a job, then you don't have that much time left. Then you should prepare for GMAT. I'm not saying GMAT is easier than CAT, but GMAT Quant is 10x easier as compared to the CAT Quant. And GMAT verbal ability is a little difficult, is a little tricky, but that's still manageable. 4.5 months is sufficient to prepare for GMAT, but not sufficient to prepare for CAT, unless you are preparing for the exam for 8 hours in a day. Um, yeah, very good question, Sushant. So typically, same number of people get accepted in all the 3 rounds for ISB, PGP. The school maintains a buffer for acceptance later on, which is called a wait list. So let's say if the school has 800 seats, so they'll do is they'll typically take 220 admits in every round, 210 to 220 in every round, and then the remaining let's say 120, 130 folks which are left, they are picked from the wait list. So you have a wait list of, let's say, 100 people in every round, 80, 90 to 100. So out of those 300 folks who are waitlisted, broadly 100 are picked up at the end of all the rounds. So waitlist is cleared at the end of all the rounds, which is March mid, which is 1 month before you join ISB. So 200, 220 admits or admit offers in every round. When it comes to how many people get an interview call and how many people get an admit. Now, this is my back of the envelope math, and this typically mirrors every global business school as well. For INSEAD, also the admit rate is 9 to 10%. For HEC, also the admit rate is 9 to 10%. The same admit rate is for ISB also. So, if I say 200 admits in round one, that means 2,000 people applied, right? And to get to a 10% admit rate, you typically invite, out of these 2,000 people who apply, 30%, let's say, get an interview call, which is 600. And again, 30% or 35% get an admit, which is 200, right? So that's the typical split. Now, this 30% of application to interview and 35% of interview to admit might keep changing. It depends on the quality of candidates. It depends on how the interview goes. So kabhi kabhi ज्यादा लोगों को इंटरव्यू कॉल आ जाता है, फिर कम लोगों को एडमिट आता है, तो 30 और 35% इंटरचेंज होते रहता है, राइट? If you plan IMA, B, and ISB for round two, there is no risk as such in terms of admissions likelihood, but the likelihood of you getting a scholarship is highest in round one. When I say highest, that means the likelihood of getting a scholarship is the highest, as well as the quantum of the scholarship. So if let's say you were eligible for a 50% scholarship from ISB in round one, if you ended up applying in round two, you might get a 25% waiver instead, right? Sharad sir is asking that his son has 3 years of work ex in marketing, BBA. Okay. Yeah, I help our mentees with international applications. That's not a problem. But he has 3 years of experience. He does not have a lot of choices in global B schools apart from UK. Because all other schools like HEC, NUS, they accept people with at least 4 or 5 years of work ex. That's the problem. And I would recommend you to not apply for 6 to 8 schools in one admission cycle. It's a very tiring process. People say that, the essays are the same. The essays are the same to an extent. I mean, if you look at ISB and HEC, in terms of intersection of essays and the similarity, only a 40% match. HEC के जो essays हैं, it has 5 essays. 60% of the essays, which is 3 essays, are very different than that of ISB. सो आप एक एडमिशन साइकिल में 6 to 8 स्कूल्स के लिए अप्लाई नहीं कर सकते. पिक 3 4 स्कूल्स, राइट? फॉर ISB, would it be okay if you applied in the second round? Yeah, it's totally fine. I mean, you should apply whenever you have the best possible version of your essays ready, plus a GMAT score, which is good. The admissions likelihood stays the same. You have a friend who has been preparing for UPSC, so couldn't add a lot of work ex. Yeah, so I've had mentees who had a gap year or a couple of gap years in between, and they were either very honest about it. Uh, and I'm saying don't be. I'm not saying ki dishonest ho jao, but if you have 2 years of gap in your profile, then you have to compensate for that somewhere else. It can be your CAT score or your GMAT score. That has to stand out. Like one of our mentees, he got into ISB last year. He had 2 gap years and he was only working part time. And he told me that Sarthak, I will not show my family business workings because I have no idea. And if they ask me any question in the interview, I'll be totally stumped. Then I said, okay. But then he got a 715 on the GMAT to compensate for that, right? SB Jain has 3 4 programs. No offense or no discredit to any school, but the only 2 programs which are worth pursuing is the SP Jain PGDM 2 year MBA and the SP Jain PGPM, which is the 1 year MBA. While writing essays for the MBA application, what major area should we focus on? So one mistake that people commit is that they become too jargony in what they're writing. So if I have 4 years of work ex with Bank of America as a systems engineer, I'm so fixated on my work-ex that I end up believing that the reader, the admissions committee guy who's reading my essays, he's well versed with what Bank of America does, what technology stack I have been working on, which is wrong, right? Because hota kya hai, people end up including a lot of jargon, a lot of company specific nomenclature in their essays, which nobody understands. So despite your best efforts to come across as somebody who has led a lot of projects, delivered on a lot of outputs, your essay is incomprehensible. Don't do that, right? That's one mistake that a lot of my engineering applicants also do, right? My engineering mentees also do. And that's true for people who have had thoda sa hatke experience. So if you have been working with Zepto as a growth manager, everybody would understand the kind of work that you do. But if you are working with Freshworks, which is a SaaS startup, that too in strategic partnerships, nobody will understand what you're doing. So you have to write in a very simple language. Uh, Naren is saying 9.2 GPA in 10th, 12th is 80%, BTech is 9.41, very nice. So national level formula student champion, okay. Okay. Hmm. Uh, yeah, if you want to get into management consulting after a B school, I would prefer that don't apply for Scalar or which one was the other school? I forgot its name. Mesa. And I was about to say Masa. Mesa and Scalar and Masters Union because, see, no disrespect to these schools, but these are relatively newer schools, right? So it takes a lot of time and effort to build a partnership with the likes of McKinsey or BCG or Deloitte. So the schools which are deeply entrenched in the ecosystem for the last 20, 25, 30 years, those are better launch pads for you to get into consulting or VC, right? If you're looking for 100% scholarship, then you should target 715 or higher. Any risk for applying in round two in ISB or IM? No, no risk. Do we need a minimum work percentage, mark percentage? Yeah, a good percentage to have is anywhere which is 80 plus. A stellar percentage to have is 90 plus, which makes them notice your academic profile. If it's less than 80, then it's below par. Then you need to stand out elsewhere, whether it's WorkX count, quality, extracurriculars, or a combination of these as well as GMAT. ISB does not. ISB does not have any preference of GMAT over GRE. Don't worry about it. If you are somebody who is good in English and vocabulary specifically, pick the GRE as compared to Quant because GRE English is very difficult as compared to GMAT English. GMAT Quant is very difficult as compared to GRE Quant. Rishabh is asking, hi Sarthak, with candidates who are CAs with 3 years of WorkX. Articleship is not considered to be full-time WorkX, just letting you know. So Bitsom was able to get good consulting placements despite being a 4-year-old school because of the BITS umbrella. So all of us have heard about BITS Pilani. The same team is at work here to get placements, leverage networks for Bitsom, right? I hope I was able to answer all the questions. Any other questions? Feel free to ask. Controversial questions also work as long as I can answer them. Average work ex at Bitsom is 1.5 years. Yeah, I frankly haven't mentored people for IIT Bombay MBA, to be very honest. So I will personally not have any idea, but I can check it and get back to you. Yeah, placement scenario at ISB or the top IIMs, is it good, bad, average after the recession? It's not bad for sure. I mean, the CTC in 2024 was 35, now it's 34 at ISB. Uh, तो कम तो नहीं हुआ है मतलब that is there. But one thing which has been happening specifically for consulting aspirants after the last since the last 2 years is uh, Bain and company used to come to ISB and top IIMs. Uh, but after 2023, what they started doing was they only recruited or they only shortlisted folks on campus who had a prior BCN experience, right? Which means only 5 to 10 people were shortlisted in the first place. That was one debacle, I believe, because Bain used to hire 30, 40 unique folks every year at ISB, and that came down to 3 to 4 people. But that is when Accenture started hiring 60 folks instead of 40 folks. That is when BCG started hiring 50 folks instead of 40 folks. So broadly, the consulting hiring split in terms of percentage was the same, and the average CTC was also the same, right? But that has been one change in terms of placement norms in the last 2 years. Uh, but barring that, everything is the same. You know, I see a lot of posts and videos on YouTube where people say इतने लोग अनप्लेस्ड हैं, इतने लोग अनप्लेस्ड हैं, एमबीए मत करो, आईएम में मत जाओ, आईएसबी में मत जाओ। आधे टाइम तो जो लोग ये वीडियोस बना रहे होते हैं वो खुद आईएसबी आलम्स होते हैं या आईएम आलम्स होते हैं। तो पहले तो मेरे को उन पे हंसी आती है कि भाई आप खुद आईएसबी और आईएम के आलम हो और आप खुद ही बोल रहे हो कि एमबीए मत करो, है ना? तो दैट्स थोड़ा हिपोक्रिटिकल। दूसरा, अगर आप किसी भी बी स्कूल को इन द मिडल ऑफ इट्स प्लेसमेंट सीजन उठा के ये बोलोगे कि भाई इस बी स्कूल की प्लेसमेंट्स तो मार्च तक चलती है, बट हम जनवरी में यूट्यूब वीडियो डाल देते हैं कि यार इस स्कूल में अभी भी 80 लोग अनप्लेस्ड हैं, तो भाई आप उस बी स्कूल को प्लेसमेंट सीजन खत्म करने का मौका तो दो, राइट? सो आई रिमेंबर लास्ट ईयर what happened was somebody put out a post on YouTube or LinkedIn that ISB placements are egregious, it's very bad, they are forcing you to drop out of placements, all of that. प्लेसमेंट्स खत्म भी नहीं हुई थी और वो पोस्ट आ गया था। ओनली डे जीरो हैड हैपेंड, एंड डे जीरो पे 40% बैच ही प्लेस होता है स्टेटिस्टिकली स्पीकिंग, राइट? 60% बैच डे वन पे प्लेस होता है। तो नाउ आई अंडरस्टैंड दैट दीज वीडियोज गेट अ लॉट ऑफ क्लिक्स, बट दे आर नॉट ट्रू, राइट? तो एंड आई बिलीव स्पेसिफिकली इन अ रिसेशनरी इन्वायरमेंट इट्स अ वेरी गुड टाइम टू डू एन एमबीए, क्योंकि आपको अपनी कंपनी में प्रेजल नहीं मिलेगा, मिलेगा तो इट विल बी इन सिंगल डिजिट्स, or maybe for those of us who are unfortunate, maybe we might be benched or let go, right? So that's the best time to do an MBA, क्योंकि एक साल बाद सबको पता है सिचुएशन इंप्रूव हो जाएगी। मे बी मिस्टर ट्रम्प विल गेट सम सेंस इन हिज हेड to not toy with the world economy. Why am I recording this session? But anyway, I'm sorry, Mr. Trump. I am a big fan. But yeah, matlab, things will be much better in terms of CTC packages, placements, all of that 1 year hence. So that is there. And the same thing happened, matlab, the best way to look at uh, any trend is to look back at history. When I was in the COVID batch at ISB, everybody was fearing placements nahi ho rahi, and BCG had backed out of hiring that year. BCG did not come on campus. Placements nahi ho rahi, the number of recruiters are abysmally low this time. How will we get hired? Only 50% of the batch is placed, all of that. But by the end of the placement season, when we were graduating in August that year, our graduation was delayed because our batch started late. Everybody was placed. The typical CTC was 35 to 36, which was the case in a pre-COVID era as well. So I would say if you're going to a top tier B school, wait for the B school admin and the dean and the whole team to work, and you will get something good out of that 1 year. And a very underappreciated norm in B school is that after you graduate out of a 1 year program, 60% folks end up changing their jobs within 6 months of joining their firm. A lot of my batchmates as well, they joined EY after ISB. Within 4 months of graduation and within 4 months of tenure, they shifted to BCG. Because the good thing about a great business school is that because of the network that you can leverage and the brand that you carry on your resume, you are very mobile. Even in a recessionary environment, you can easily switch places, which is not there when you don't have an MBA or if you do your MBA from a tier two school, right? And that happened for me as well. I joined one workplace. I was able to move to BCG very easily, only because somebody who was an alum was kind enough to refer me. And because of the ISB brand name, I got an interview call. All of that happened, right? Uh, yeah, Oxford and Cambridge are more renowned for front end consulting firms, specifically the likes of Big Three. The Big Three don't hire in abundance when it comes to NUS. That's some advantage that Oxford and Cambridge have. Do people with 8+ years of work ex get admission at ISB? Definitely, yes. In fact, you will get brownie points in terms of work ex count, like we were talking about. And no, it will not affect your admission at ISB at all. I don't think so. Yeah, the wait list is for people who are still in consideration, they might get an admit, but they'll get to know about that admit by March when all the rounds are finished. So for 3 year of WorkX, 3 years of WorkX, SPJN, Acceleri, ISB, Bitsom, if you want to do a 2 year MBA. But in India, you're not eligible for the rest of the IIMs A, B, C, K. So these four programs. I mean, obviously, if he wants to get into a startup strategy role after his MBA, then he can definitely apply for Masters Union. When you say ISB, PGP, Executive MBA Pranali, I did not understand what you mean. Is it the PGP Pro that you're talking about? I believe it's PGP Pro. So PGP Pro is a weekend MBA. You are allowed to stay in your job and you can attend classes on the weekends. If you ask me, it's not at all same or even similar as the ISB PGP, which is a residential 1 year MBA. PGP Pro is for folks who want the ISB brand name on their CV because PGP Pro does not come with any placement assistance. I'm repeating this. PGP Pro does not come with any placement assistance, but PGP has a dedicated student team. They invite recruiters. You have a dedicated career advancement services team, which is very big to support placements for everyone. But that support is not there for PGP Pro folks. So if you want to upskill and mention ISB somewhere in your CV, then PGP Pro is a fine alternative. If you want to break into consulting after MBA, is it wise to join a consulting firm first? Not necessary. Not necessary at all. Consulting firms are background agnostic. You see, when you go to a business school, people who have been a doctor or an army veteran or an operations guy or someone in investment banking, all of these people get a shortlist from consulting firms. So there is no preference as such when it comes to hiring folks who have a pre-MBA consulting experience. Awesome. I hope this was helpful. And okay, no worries. Do CAs get any preference? Yes. CA is a very prestigious degree. It's very hard to complete a CA charter. So proud of you. CAs do get brownie points. And brownie points से मेरा मतलब है that it's very natural for a CA to have an okayish BCom percentage, which is 7 or 7.5, because all of us know that in parallel you were preparing for CA examinations. So you're pardoned for that. For me, who has 7 GPA and does not have a CA, I will get penalized. For you, if you have a 7 on 10 GPA and if you're a CA, you will get brownie points. And that's a huge advantage, right? And sometimes when the admissions committee is confused on whether to take you or not, or whether to invite you for an interview or not, because your academics are average, GMAT is okayish, that is also where CA puts you at an advantage, right? Hmm. Naren is saying profile is good, great GPA. Hmm. Yeah, so your suggested GMAT score for getting 100% scholarship from the likes of ISB or so it's 2 years of WorkX, right? Yeah. So would be 705 or 715 because your work experience is on the lower side, which is 2 years. Awesome. And if you want to connect with me personally, if you want to discuss anything, you can fill this form. Happy to chat on WhatsApp. And I hope this session was helpful. Awesome. So for 3 years of WorkX, you can apply in Oxford and Cambridge and Imperial as well. But your GMAT score will have to be higher, 675 plus. Same thing goes for NUS. For scholarships, a lot of while mentees got scholarships last year because it was the inaugural year for the while. So that's why they wanted to give as many scholarships as possible. So one of my mentees who got a scholarship had a 333 on the GRE. Another mentee who got a scholarship had a 695 on the GMAT. Another mentee who got a scholarship had a 615 on the GMAT, but she had a very different profile. She was in executive search HR profile. So I believe the number of scholarships will go down this year because it was the inaugural year, so they were giving scholarships more leniently. But for GMAT score, if you want to bag a scholarship, target 695 or higher. So if you have had an okayish academic profile and not much impact in your work ex, then extracurriculars are very important. So it's difficult to back placements out of a B school, which is a global B school, because unlike India, where you are spoon fed and where your CVs are uploaded for a recruiter to see through a placements team, outside the country there is no such norm. There is no placements team. Only thing that happens is you are given a chance to have a coffee chat with some alums who are working in a firm of your choice. Then it totally depends on you on how you're able to strike up an organic conversation and take it forward. So in a recessionary environment, it's good to stay in India because uh, here there is a lot of spoon feeding happening. You are given a lot of training on how to make a CV. You are given a lot of training on how to prepare for an interview. There is a dedicated team. The school's neck is on the line, but that is not true outside. So from that perspective, it's a little easier to get a placement if you're not someone who's an extrovert. So I'm an introvert. In a recessionary year, if you try to ask me that Sarthak, get a placement while you're a student at HEC, I'll not be able to do so. Right. So that's what I'm trying to say. Awesome. I hope this was helpful and I'll stop the recording and all the best for your admissions journey and happy to be of any help if you want to reach out. Thank you.